what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the CEO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. We are sitting down with a highly successful individual here, Mr. Michael Banovac, right? So he's been in the real estate space since he was 18 years old. I mean, it's been a minute since then. You're 33 now.
Yep.
But the level of success and the approach that you've taken has been different. A lot of people stay in the real estate space for a long time doing traditional, type of stuff. You evolved into becoming a real estate developer, have done more than 350 deals since 2012 or so, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's impressive on its own. But then again, you also studied marketing at London School of Economics, business at Harvard University. You've partnered up with Tariq El Moussa, like the star of HGTV. So you've been all over the place, and you've gotten the opportunity to tap into different perspectives along the way. I mean, Grant Cardone, and you have a lot of those influences. Of course, you're crushing it on the social media space and being loud about what you do.
Thank you.
So I'm very honored, man, to have you on the show. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Rafael. Appreciate the invite, and I love your show, and really pleasure to be a guest. So thank you again.
Thank you, man. I can't wait to pick your brain on how it all got started. I mean, 18 years old. I know I wasn't thinking, become a professional or when I was 18 years old. I've mentioned that a couple of times before. It's more of a shoot from the hip, and let's see where the bullet lands, kind of approach when I was younger. So how did that go about? Like, how did you start to bet on yourself at such an early age and take it from there?
I was lucky, and blessed in many ways, because my parents were very entrepreneurial, and I didn't really get raised around kids. I was raised around adults. I was always wearing sport coats and suits, and I was seeing my dad do business deals out of the Arizona Biltmore Cabana on the big brick phone, and I used to sit there and just listen to him. Yeah. And it's funny how kids are like sponges, right? They're you learn through osmosis, and even at a young age, I loved money. I was fascinated with it. I had a little cash register, and I'd count coins and just weird stuff. And it was a game that intrigued me, right? I think a lot of people think when they think getting wealthy or being successful, it's no different than playing basketball or football or being known, right? It's a game. It's a game that can be learned. Yeah. And that's why I love doing stuff like this, is I think the knowledge that we can give the viewership to help them become more successful is where the nuggets are learned.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, 100%, man. And I think it's a lot of it is in the perspective, right? So it's interesting right out of the gate that you mentioned that your idea of money was like a game.
Yeah.
Most often than not, we begin with the idea of money, and I'll speak for myself on this as well, as instead of a game, a challenge.
Right.
And I mean, that can set you off in a whole different direction. Where you have to switch your paradigms, you have to switch your mentality and your perspective on it in order to get into that path of wealth. So
it's that old adage, you believe you can, you believe you can't, right? Yeah. And that construct really rings true is in entrepreneurship, and I'm sure you can attest to this, there's a lot of failure along the way. There's a lot of self-help issues, right? We succeed, we fail. We succeed, we fail. We feel like we're moving in place. I'm sure a lot of the viewers may feel that in their own lives. But you wake up. What I always preach is constant daily deposits. Whatever it is that you want, put all your focus there. And you're going to lose, but along the way, you're going to learn. Yeah. And in learning, you're going to become extremely successful because you're going to be light years ahead of your competition. One of my favorite allegories that I love telling, and I told it on one of your buddies' podcasts the other day, is think of life like a horse race, right? Mm-hmm. Rafael Cortez is this amazing racehorse, right? You're in the Kentucky Derby, gun goes off, and you're running, and you have blinders on like all horses do. We're all horses in a race of life, right? And we're running, and we see horses in front of us. We're thinking, oh no, we're way behind. Like that horse is ahead of us. That horse is going to win the pennant. That horse is going to win. And we're thinking that all the time, right? With social media, with business, with stats, with numbers, everyone claiming they're the best. And the ironic thing is, in this horse, in this life race, you're running, and finally you run across the finish line, the confetti goes off, and you're crowned the winner. And you're thinking to yourself, how can I have been the winner when all these horses were ahead of me the whole time? And they said, oh, no, they were a lap behind you. You just didn't even know it.
Wow. Yeah.
That's life.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's interesting to see, how as we go through the process I think we hone in on our lane, right? We focus on our lane and our path. which is it's one of the hardest things to do, I believe. Figure out what your path is, what's going to be your your X factor, right? And then dig deep into that lane and go into it. But I've seen it time and time again where the highlights, we see highlights on social media all the time.
Right.
We get different ideas of what success is, what failure is, and I feel like if we lose touch of our truth, a real self, and the understanding of what it is that we want as individuals, us, right?
Yep.
Not what our
That's
environment, what society, what context is telling us, but what do we want as individuals?
Yep.
If we lose sight of that, it's easy to get caught up in the weeds and just feel like you're being held back when in reality you're moving a lot faster.
And happiness is learned. What a lot of people that haven't achieved financial independence don't understand is getting that car, getting that house, getting that hot boyfriend or girlfriend, or getting that celebrity to know who you are. All of that really doesn't bring you happiness because it's a moment in time, right? Life's a game of moments.
Yeah.
And it's the journey that makes us happy. It's the fruition of doing what we're called to do, right?
Yeah.
There's no destination. It's just, I did that deal. Okay. I can't rest on that deal. I got to do the next deal.
Yeah.
And it just keeps going and going and going.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit. You remember that one?
Uh-huh.
It's one of the best slogans out there.
Yeah.
Like, I thought about it. And yeah, like life, liberty, and happiness, right? But what is that? Like, is it something that's you reach, you get to a point and then you sit on it and you reach? Like, no, it evolves, right? It continues to evolve just like we do, in every sense of life, in every aspect of the word. It's the pursuit of that. As we're growing, we're gonna see different horizons when it, okay, that means happiness now. That means happiness after that. That means.
And then the irony is once you receive, temporal objects, the things you've always thought you wanted, they become less valuable to you, and you go back to the basics. You go back to family and friends and your close inner circle and helping people, because there's no dopamine hit like someone coming up to you on the street or DMing you saying, "Hey, Rafael, man, you really helped me. Thanks for posting that."
Yeah.
It's really a cool feeling.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see. I mean, you get a lot of that, right? It's sometimes one piece of advice, one nugget, one token, one something that we may not even think is gonna have a ripple effect does.
Yes, right.
And it's interesting how months later, years later, somebody reaches out. You posted this one thing, or you talked about this one thing on the podcast. You said this, and it landed, it resonated.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we have to be in a good personal space to be able to do that kind of stuff, right? And it resonates, to be able to project it the right way.
100%. It's funny, to be successful, you don't have to look out. All you have to do is look in the mirror. And if what you see is not what you want to see, you got to work on yourself before you ever put anything out in the world.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of salesmen are very unsuccessful, because what people look at in high price ticket sales is they look at layers of legitimacy. I talked about this in my book. Dating is like business, right? I'm a dating guy. I wrote a book on it in 2017, and it's an art form. It's a dance, and no one wants to be sold, but everyone wants to buy, right? So it's always, how do you circuitously, make people excited about what it is that you're offering? You're not really offering it to them directly, but they're so excited about it. They're so fervor, like, I want to do this deal, that you're actually doing them a favor for allowing them to participate. That's the true art of the sale.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it's a completely different take. So how do you get there?
Constant deposits. A lot of people, when you look at salesmanship at the highest degree, many people go for the ask way too quick, right? And so what you need to do if you want to be successful, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs watch your show, and I've had difficulty with it too, is you really have to build rapport over a long period of time by establishing knowledge, by establishing a base, by helping people, by establishing trust and authenticity. And then once they're totally entrusted and authentic to the true person of who Rafael Cortez is or Michael Banovac is, that's when you circuitously say, hey, there's an opportunity here that I think would really benefit you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the key word is helping, right? We always talk about leading with value.
Yes.
Understanding what that means, though. like for the other person, not just for ourselves. It's a whole different story, right? It's we have to pay. That's where we have to pay attention.
When I do talks, I always have this acronym that I talk about in relationships and in business, and it's called SCC, right? Not Scottsdale Community College, as the people from Arizona think it is, but SCC stands for number one, which is the most important thing in relationships and business, is story. If you're not able to cultivate and talk about your story in an eloquent way, you're done. Because people make quick sub-second judgments about the person you are, how you walk, how you talk, what you wear, what you do. Are you friendly? Are you interactive, right? So story becomes really important. The second thing I think the audience could really benefit from is when you want to get something out of life from someone, right? Strangers have everything that they want, right? They have the money, they have the opportunities, they have the sex, they have everything we ever want in our lives. You have to be able to cultivate commonality. That's the second C, is commonality, right? What do we have in common? Oh, you like business? I like business. Oh, you like sports? I like sports. You like to travel? I like to travel. Instantly, these synapses in our brain are coming together and you're like, oh, I like this guy or gal. I want to do something with them, right? And last but not least, where a lot of people have problems in relationships and in business is conversion. That's the last C. And the conversion comes across as a sleazy sales word. You're trying to convert someone or sell them. But reality, conversion is a win-win, right? You asking me to be on your podcast may be a win for you because my viewership is going to want to follow you, right? It's a huge win for me because I love following your work, and maybe some of your viewers might like me. So that's what a conversion is. And for those listening in, I think you both have to win in a interaction or in a deal for it to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's to me it was somewhat difficult to wrap my head around that idea. And you're completely right about that conversion part, the win-win, right? I remember speaking at a conference a while back, and I was talking to Dean Gracios, and he's one of the things that he brought up was that if we don't put ourselves in front of the rest of the world, right? If we don't have that exposure, we're not loud about who we are. More importantly, if we can't articulate how we give value to the people out there, we're doing them a disservice.
100%.
And I never seen it like that, right? I've always like my natural tendency was to be humble about what I did. I don't want to talk about it much because it's gonna feel braggadocious and it's gonna feel like maybe arrogant, and anyways, that was my limited belief behind that. But if we can't have a point of conversion or a call to action or hey, this is what I do and this is what I can do for you, type of conversation with people. We're doing people a disservice because now something good that we have to offer. One of the good things that we have to offer is being kept indoors, and it's not. It's
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, that changed, and it's definitely worth taking a note on that, right? But it changed my entire paradigm in sales. We're always, like you said, we're always selling ourselves. It's whether we realize it or not, right? And instead of having that feeling behind that it's somewhat gimmicky, it's a value factor. It's a value thing that hits, right? When like, shit, what I have to say is really important, is really good. My product, what I have is really good. The type of service that I provide is really, really good. When I build homes, they're the best homes, they're really good. Like, people need to know about that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest mistake people doing on planet Earth right now is they are not sharing the gifts of the world. I think you're really doing a big disservice as a human being, because we're all innately gifted at one thing, two things, maybe three. And if we're not shouting that from the mountaintop, saying, I'm innately good at this, I'd love to help you become better, we're doing the world a disservice.
Yeah, exactly. Embracing it is very important, right? How did you go about doing that, or were you? Just 18 years old, and then you hit it naturally. You were this
a lot of trial and error. A lot of trial and error. I came from, my dad made and lost many fortunes throughout his life, 3 to be exact. And he was a young, wealthy guy and lost his money in the savings and loan crisis. And then the second turnaround, as soon as I graduated from college, he was down and out as well. You learn a lot from failure. And one thing I learned was My dad taught me an important lesson because he was at the top of the mountain and the bottom of the mountain. He says, you never, ever, ever equate your self-worth to your net worth because they are not inextricably linked. A lot of people think they are. They're not. I know a lot of assholes that are rich, and I know a lot of amazing people that are poor. But they're not poor because they're enriched in life, right? They have family, they have friends, they have purpose. That is wealth. But what a lot of people don't realize is wealth is the creation of life moments. And so for me, what got me success is realizing it's a game. It's a game of moments. It's a game of interactions. It's a game of being present, right? Like I was really looking forward to this and speaking with you because I don't know you that well and I've followed your content. And when someone's present in that moment and having a conversation, a genuine, authentic connection, there's so much gold in those moments where people can learn from and go, whoa, I didn't know that about life. Maybe I can implement that in my life and be more successful.
Yeah, there's this magic about an in-person conversation, and being open, right? Being open to just learn from every single encounter that we have. I agree with you absolutely, man. I don't think success is subjective. Well, wealth financially is one thing, right? I mean, you have certain degrees and whatnot or levels that we want to hit throughout life and that sort of thing. But success in itself and it's a very subjective thing. You can have somebody who may not be the richest guy of the neighborhood, yet they're very successful because they're living a good healthy, balanced life, and they're happy in their place. They love their 9 to 5, and they have this quality of life that factors in, just plays right for them. And on the other note, the other thing that you mentioned was having conversation. Every time you have a conversation with somebody else, it's not just two brains duking it out or talking, right? It's three. So you have the other person's brain or mindset, mentality, and then we have our own, and then we have the collective of the two. And I think that's what creates the magic between every single
100%.
conversation. There's always a plus one there that just compiles all the ideas. And if the synergy is there and it's a creative and constructive conversation, a lot of stuff can branch from it. I mean, hence the power of collaboration, right? Reaching out to people. I love being on other people's podcasts. When they pick my brain, I love picking brains, by the way. So and then
have you on mine.
when they pick my brain, because it's a lot of times it's almost like it's easy to fall into the track of the everyday taskiness, right? And we keep thinking about the same stuff over and over again. We talk about the deal, we talk about the process, we talk about okay, what am I going to do on content? And it almost becomes this blueprint of daily thinking. And when you're drawn out of that by somebody else's perspective, like that injects value into your
100%
your conversation. So
it's those daily deposits. I talk about this all the time. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a great book called Outliers.
Oh, I love
and
that
in
book.
there, basically, he says you can become an expert at anything with over 10,000 hours of practice.
Yeah.
And so, I remember a couple of years back in my 20s, right? I wanted to be in magazines. So what did I have to do? I had to befriend and understand editors. I had to understand who was writing the content, who were the decision makers. When Instagram or Facebook came on, you saw all these guys and gals with 1 million followers. Like, how the hell is that possible? And then constantly you start learning. You reverse engineer, like, oh, wow, I could do this. They did it this way. I could do it that way. And you just take little tidbits throughout your life and daily deposit over and over and over again. You're going to be very successful. And real estate's a great quadrant of that.
Oh, yeah. So kicking into or shifting gears here for a sec, when you got started in real estate, again, your mindset was, I mean, you had this certain perspective of what things could be, right? You had an example to follow or to look at, being your dad. But I'm sure it hasn't been, the unicorns and Skittles, throughout the whole time, especially becoming or taking the leap into becoming a developer. I mean, that's a very challenging space. So tell me about that. Like, what's been one of the biggest, perhaps, quote unquote, failures that you've had throughout your career?
I think success comes when you're not expecting it in a way you're not expecting it. And what I mean by that is you don't understand timelines when it comes to success, right? Everyone in their early 20s or maybe in their late teens, they see the Lamborghinis, the Ferraris, the planes, all this stuff on social media, and they want to attain those things. And, you know, I was no different. You know, I was 20 years old and had a Porsche Carrera 4 convertible. I was 25 and had an Aston Martin DB9. And I thought that stuff really resonated with who I was, and it was important to me. And it was important at that time because my self-identity was very fragile. I think what a lot of people talk about is they only talk about the wins, but they don't talk about all the insecurities we have deep in ourselves. And the most successful people are the most insecure. I know this because I've met a lot of them. And what they do is they channel their insecurity towards massive action, and that massive action breeds amazing results in whatever they put their effort into.
Yeah. It's do you feel like it's one of those things where you have to spend the same amount of time, you know, going through the work of the actual work, you know, going through the process that deals and the taskiness as much as you have to work on the yourself part?
I think looking in the mirror is the most important thing. And there's two things that I really, you know, talk about with my clients. And the first is you have to master yourself. All of us are so unique in our thought processes. We're all really idiosyncratic about the way we think, right?
Yeah.
We want to dress a certain way. We want to look a certain way. We want to feel a certain way. We want to work out because we need those dopamine hits in our body to feel a certain way. Yeah. The first thing that if anyone's feeling bad, got this from Ed Milet, 100% true, work out, walk, move. Because if you're moving, it's very hard for you to feel bad about yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are too sedentary. Get up, start walking, start moving. If you want to get a little more creative, start working out. That changed my life last year, big time, huge. Because what people don't talk about is entrepreneurship is a game of battles, right? It's a game of just getting thrown under the bus over and over and over and having to deal with it. And if you can deal with it, you know Alex Hormozy?
Yeah.
So Alex had a great quote that I thought, whoa, this is so true. He says, if you ever look at CEOs or entrepreneurs that are super successful, in the beginning, if something doesn't go their way, they have an outlash, right? They get all pissed off and mad and all these things. But as they become more seasoned and more successful, they're able to deal with problems and trauma at a more even keel rate. And I thought, whoa, that is so true. The smarter the person is the one that can take it, deal with it, and trump it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think at that point you have leverage, or experience has leverage over ego, you know, most of the time, right? Most of the time. I mean, I've seen very, you know, egocentric people who, you know, make it to their 70s that way, but
they're alone.
But I feel like you get punched enough as an entrepreneur that you get to a point where it's like, shit, okay, cool. This is going to serve me way better. And you have a better understanding of, you know, how resilient you are as an individual, what your goals are, what's worth it, you know, to pursue. Case in point, we had a really, really good mastermind, a 2-day mastermind on a new project that we're launching on the commercial side of things with a couple of really good guys, and we had this person come in, and he was mediating the entire session, right? And it came down to you know, deliverables and the scope of work and all that stuff. So we're doing, you know, the whole 9 yards. And then it came down to, you know, the roles, right? The roles of the company. And usually, like, he goes, this is interesting, because usually when we're like, who's going to be the CEO, who's going to be the thing, you know, people jump to that kind of stuff because it's, you know, it's it's prestige, right? Like you have that, like, I have
I'm the man.
Yeah. Like we were all pushing back on that stuff.
No one wanted to be the buck stops with him.
Listen. Let's see how we can plug somebody else into that, you know, into that space. And he steps back and he goes, that's how you can tell that, you know, you have experience behind it. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what it entails. You understand what the entire process is, and the amount of responsibility and commitment that it's going to take. And then more importantly, you understand your own personal bandwidth. Like, does that align with the type of life that I want to live? Right. And I think, like, the crazy thing is that we were all on the same page when it came to that. It wasn't a matter of evading the work or not wanting to do it. It was just being smart about the commitment that we were all, you know, in the middle of making right there. So yeah, it's pretty interesting how we change and we evolve as entrepreneurs, but as individuals as well, as we're going through this entire process.
So many people look towards the future of, if I get this, I'll be happy. If I attain that, I'll be satisfied. It's never the case, because once you attain it, the new goal instantly becomes important, right?
Yeah.
So as cliche as it sounds, the nuggets and the value and life is in that journey.
Yeah.
And the one thing I realize is every day you wake up really excited, right? You get yourself in a heightened state and you're like, whoa, I'm going on a podcast today. This is awesome. You really feel a heightened sense of, I can deal with any problem that comes my way. And in doing that, you're going to become a successful entrepreneur over a long period of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. How have you been able to stay in track with yourself while jumping into different opportunities that are coming at you? It's one of the questions that most often comes up, right?
I think a lot of it has to do with, how do you deal with pain? You know, I went through a really traumatic relationship breakup a little over a year ago, and it really affected me mentally. And because of that, I reread my book, because I wasn't following any of the stuff I taught people. I started working out consistently. I started rebuilding yourself. And I think that's an important point to put on, is success is built on failure, right? If you look at Tesla, you look at Elon Musk, right? You look at all these companies,
Man.
They were at the point of just ruin. If it just tipped a little bit the other way, it would have gone down.
If it would have been 98 degrees that one day instead of 95.
Exactly.
Like, it's so close. I mean, yeah.
It's just a game of inches. You know, one of my favorite quotes, or I should say movie speeches, is Al Pacino in Any Given Sunday. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, it's so true. It's just, life is a game of inches. You know, and timing and real estate, it's so interesting, because I remember I was 25 years old, primary listing agent, sold a $3.5 million house. I was the youngest person in the state of Arizona to sell a $3 million house.
Wow.
And to me, I'm like, I'm king of the world, man. I thought I was on
King of the
top,
hill,
right? King of the deals. And I thought I could do this every day of my life. And then hubris comes in, you fail. You start realizing this isn't a duplicatable thing, because what people don't realize in real estate is, even though it's duplicatable, there are outside forces that are out of your control.
Yeah.
You hit a home run on this deal does not guarantee you're going to hit a home run on the next, because conditions are different. And that's like life, right? So the smartest people are able to calibrate quickly, regroup, and learn and try to solve the problem.
Yeah. Do you look at collaboration often, or are you more of a, like, I'll figure it out myself type of guy?
It depends.
Yeah.
You know, I think in my 20s, and why I didn't have a lot of success earlier on, is because I was an independent thinker. Oh, I'm going to do it myself. No one could do it as well as me. Stupid.
Yeah.
You know, now as you get older, you start realizing everything you want is with other people. And the whole point is, let's collectively, rising tide rises all ships. Let's make everyone a star.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest mistake people are making in their lives. They're not playing big enough. They're not collaborating enough. And they're not asking the question of, what's possible?
Yeah.
What can I really do with the gifts I'm given? A lot of people can do a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially the willingness to want to put in the work, right? But to contribute, sparks. And I think that's one of those things that whenever you get to the right space, we get out of a survival state when we're struggling or going through a learning curve. I mean, it's hard to think about contribution, right? But then we hit this benchmark where, okay, cool. I mean, I feel like the at least that's how it kind of played out for me. But got to a point where I'm good, and then, oh shit, I'm good. What else? Like,
lifestyle creep is one of those things where people think, I need this in order to be happy. It's totally not the case. I mean, the irony is, just living in the United States, we're so blessed compared to so many other people in the world. And just waking up, breathing this air, and living in this country, we have a lot to be thankful for. And it's our duty to help people. Yeah. And you can help a lot of people through business.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Business, do you have a certain purpose that you follow? Is there something that drives you? For example, mine is empowering entrepreneurship. I wake up in the morning, thinking about what I'm going to do business-wise, right? But everything that in my businesses points towards empowering entrepreneurship. The podcast, the brokerage, the coaching programs, consulting, conversations, and all that stuff.
One of my go-to mission statements, especially in my relationship business, and I think all of life is relationships. So I say that, you know, in the same token is I want to make people the best versions of themselves so they can attract the best in others. And I think if you really elevate yourself to the best possible avatar you can be, you'll be amazed at the type of people you'll attract in your life. Many people aren't doing it. They're not dressing the part. They're not acting the part. They're not giving the part. They're not doing the things they could be doing to meet one person that could change the trajectory of their lives.
Commit to their highest and best, right?
At all times, or at least as much as you can. And when you fail, take note of it, right? People always want to gloss over failure, right? When you look at social media, when you look at YouTube, oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm great, I'm this. That's boring.
What can you tell somebody who's struggling from tenacity or the lack of tenacity?
So one of the things that I taught my clients, especially, so in my dating business, many people struggle after divorce or after a traumatic breakup, like me, and I wasn't even married, and I was struggling too, and I had the tools in my arsenal. How do you reinvent yourself? How do you become the next, you know, best self you can be?
Right.
A lot of it's breaking down the insecurities that you had in childhood. It really stems from childhood when you look at it, right? A scarcity mindset, being told no, being told, you know, penny saved is a penny earned, you know, money needs to be guarded, you know, be careful who you let in, don't talk to strangers. All those things are just negative talk that are not getting you to where you need to go in life.
Isn't it crazy that most of that advice is the advice that keeps people broke? I mean, I get it, right? From a safety standpoint as we're growing up, but you know, don't talk to strangers. Like, you can't make money if you're not talking to strangers.
100%.
You know, a penny saved is a penny earned. It's like if you don't invest, like you can't, your money doesn't work for you. So I don't know. So many different just, you know, types of conversations that I grew up listening to, and those become programs, right? So I think when you say going back to your childhood and your root and your origins and figuring out, you know, what kind of, you know, what programming comes from back then, it's really the key to finding out who you are.
People want to jump steps. You know, you want to go from step 1 to step 20. It doesn't work that way, right? You know, a lot of people said, how have you met billionaires? How have you met celebrities? And I said, because what I've done is I've taken the people in my phone book, I've tried to help them the best I can, I've tried to learn from them, and I've tried to expand my network through their network. That's a very powerful tool. And by offering, you know, genuine authenticity and friendship, being kind, being interactive, helping them when you can, not at the expense of yourself, because there's a lot of people that'll take advantage of you. But trying to be benevolent in the best way you know how. There's a lot of opportunity out there. And with social media now, celebrities are accessible in 2 minutes if you know how to ask properly.
Wow, amazing. Man, it's a conversation full of golden nuggets. So I appreciate the time. I appreciate you being here. I have this one question that I love asking before we start signing off is, if you were walking down the street and you ran into your 17-year-old self, what piece of advice would you give that, Michael?
You only live once. And a lot of people think they're going to live twice. And so they're not living the life they think they should be living right now. And start early, start often, fail quickly. And you really have to just launch yourself. One of my favorite quotes, Henry David Thoreau, launch yourself on every wave, find your eternity in each moment. Reason being is because life is a game of moments. When we die, right, scientifically it's been proven it's a slideshow. If you don't have highlighted moments, you don't have pain, you don't have pleasure, you don't have travel, you don't have love, you don't have loss, your life is going to be something that you deeply regret. And I don't want any regrets when I die.
I love that, man. I love that. It sinks right into one of my best or my favorite quotes or philosophies. It's by Paulo Coelho, which is, I refuse to walk carefully through life only to arrive safely at my death. But it plays right into it. It's live, right?
The last quote of my book when I wrote on relationships is, you know, we did a study with people in nursing homes and they were on their deathbed, and a lot of them had regrets. And the quote that I really resonated with is, you're never the best version of yourself you want to be. Rather, you are the lowest version of yourself you're willing to accept. What are you going to accept in your life?
Yeah.
That's the truth.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Fire. Once again, man, thank you so much for being on the podcast. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, I don't know, reach out, work with you in some way or form, where is the best place to find you?
Best place, probably Instagram at Michael Banovac. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on YouTube. I'm on TikTok. I'm on all those things. And Instagram, DM me. Be happy to follow you and share with you. And again, we're here to help. And thank you, Rafael, for the opportunity. I really appreciate being on.
My pleasure, brother. My pleasure. Yeah. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a blast, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Fam, there you guys have it. Stay focused. You got this.